Greetings, brothers and sisters. Today's morning devotion is on 1 Kings chapter 22, the last chapter of 1 Kings. So that's the conclusion of King Ahab, like what we said yesterday. God has spent so much, said so much about the recording of Ahab. That means he must be significant. And God have used a lot of prophets to help him. Before there's the prophet Elisha. And here there's the prophet Micaiah. And there was also a disciple of the prophet who went to warn him, but he was eaten by the lion. But God has used the most important prophets in the era to warn him and help him. We said there's Moses in Elijah. Moses have his time. In the Old Testament, there's Moses and Elisha. Elisha was such an important prophet. He was born for the sake of Ahab. So we know King Ahab is very significant. And when we come to the last chapter, I give the title is Those Who Have Lost Themselves Are Very Hard to Save. So like what we said about in the previous chapter, he sold himself. What does it mean he sold himself? It means that he doesn't have his own thinking. Sometimes you listen to this, sometimes you listen to that. He's inconsistent. You can say he's double-minded. Elijah said that to the people at the time. How long would you be double-minded? And King Ahab, his life is like that. And when we read the scripture today, there's a very special thing. You realize he often say King of Israel. But it doesn't say who. Here, the King of Israel appeared 19 times. And 17 times is referring to Ahab. But it doesn't mention his name, Ahab. As though the character of Ahab has been blurred. He is the king of Israel, but it seems like his name, Ahab, it's insignificant. So they don't have to record it. So this is what this chapter is trying to express. Since the previous 5 chapters, we can look at this from a few perspectives. For example, in faith, in the perspective of faith, when we come to know Ahab, he had a 450 barrel prophet. And during the time, Jezebel has been killing the prophets of the Lord. Jezebel has been killing the prophets of the Lord, but Ahab has been okay. When Elijah arrives and killed the prophets of Baal, he was okay. And then Jezebel is sitting after the life of Elijah, and he was okay. Well, which side is he on? He's not too sure. He's like that. Which side are you on? Which side do you believe? Why do you changing your mind all the time? Since Jezebel is sorting the life of Elijah, okay, you listen to your wife. Then how come here you have 400 prophets of the Lord? Which side are you on? He has no sense of self. In his faith, he's like this. Military, he's also like this. He said that I'll give you everything, the best thing in my palace. We won't fight. And King Aram gave an even straighter demand. I'm sending someone to have a look. And Ahab asked the advice of the elders. And the elders said that no. Then Ahab said that, all right, then we'll go to war. So listen to this and that. Military, he's like that too. And politically, he's also like that. That's why Jezebel could use the name of Ahab and place the seal of the king and to give orders with it. Even the elders know to report to Jezebel after they have killed Naboth. So it means all the elders know this is the idea of Jezebel. What are the pieces that the whole kingdom knows? You give all the decision making to your wife. And he's this guy. In terms of faith, military, in terms of politically, he has no sense of self. So that means he sold himself. So this is someone who has lost himself. Does God want to save him? Does God want to save him? God put in a lot of effort. But in the end, he is very hard to save. So many lives of the prophets of the Lord has been sacrificed. When Jezebel was killing them, there were so many prophets of the Lord that died. But still, he can save Ahab. May God help us. That in our faith, we need to hold on to God. We need to closely follow God. When we come to this chapter, let's look at how does this story conclude. 3 years there's no war. So King Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, went down to see the king of Israel. So the context is like this. Jehoshaphat would join with Ahab in marriage. So they are now related, and so they can help each other. So Jehoshaphat come and meet King Ahab, and King Ahab said, let's go to war together. And Jehoshaphat agreed and said, okay. And when they thought about it, they said, okay, let's ask God about it. Let's inquire the Lord. So first of all, he said, I am as you are, my people as your people, my horses as your horses. So he first agreed. And verse 5. But Jehovah also said to the king of Israel, first seek the counsel of the Lord. So he agreed, and they thought, okay, we should first consult the Lord. And then the team of prophets come out. About 400 prophets. And here we don't understand why he has so many prophets. If it was a capable prophet, one should be enough. Like Elijah would have been enough, but he has 400 of them. It shows that he values them. Okay. Jehoshaphat then thought, hey, there's one that's quite famous, but you haven't got him to come. That is Micaiah. And then King Ahab spoke his mind. Verse 8. There's still one prophet through whom we can inquire of the Lord, but I hate him because he never prophesies anything good about me, but always bad. He is Micaiah, son of Imlah. There are many things we can ponder upon in terms of this phrase. And in Second Chronicles, it's even more clear. He always say bad things. So Micaiah spoke many times. And he just often give ill advice. He brings bad news. So what's the conflict? So on one hand, Ahab appears to believe in the prophets of the Lord, and also believe in his blessings. But he doesn't like to listen to the truth. Should we listen to good words or truthful words? Do we really want to listen to the word of the prophet? Why should we listen? Here King Ahab has revealed his attitude towards the prophets. Firstly, I believe in prophets. And so I have 400 prophets of the Lord. So this should be showing that he values the prophets. Previously, his wife had 400 prophets of Baal, of Asherah. So my wife has 400 prophets, then I will have 400 prophets too, but they are prophets of the Lord. Prophets of the Lord. I value them. I believe in the blessings of the prophets. But I don't want to listen to truthful words. I find them annoying. They keep saying things that are bad news. So each of us, must feel our heart. Do I want to listen to the truth, or do I just want to listen to what's good to the ear? Pleasing words might not always be truth. Pleasing words in the end would deceive you. And in the end it will cause you to die in the battlefield. So we must choose to listen to the truth. Truth words are hard to swallow, to hear, but as authorities, we need to listen to the truth. For if you don't know the truth, or else you'll often be the last person to find out. And only when the problem becomes very severe, that it can't be helped that you got to know. Because the whole world knows except for you. So this is what the character of Ahab. But I believe he represents a lot of people. We must ask God to help us. We need to embrace the truth. And we have to be truthful to others. And we have to embrace the truthful words others say to us. Or else no one can save you. And here Micaiah come out. Verse 13. The messenger who is going to summon Micaiah said to him, "Look, the other prophets, without exception, are predicting success for the king. Let your words agree with them, theirs, and speak favorably." So you can see the messenger is smart. They know what the king wants to hear, and they urge Micaiah to do that. So Micaiah, when he first went to the king and said, "Sure, sure, go, go." But he seemed sarcastic, and King Ahab picked it up and said that, "Hey, you've been sarcastic. Tell me the truth." So verse 16, it said, the king said to him, "How many times must I make you swear to tell me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord?" And so Micaiah then said, "You will lose this war and you will die." And a lot of prophets will got angry and hit Micaiah. And here in verse 20, he says something important. Who will enlist Ahab into attacking and going to his death there? So going to his death has been decided. It's just who will do this. And then a spirit came forward. They will enlist him. What would the spirit come forward? This spirit, will become a deceiving spirit in the mouths of his prophets. And the prophet, they deliver the word of the Lord. They are not just anybody. They have to have some kind of skill. Then you know that they are a prophet. So in today's terms, if someone have to have a score of 4 or 5, then they are more like prophets. Then they enter into the team of prophets. So they are gifted. But in the end, they choose not to become a mouthpiece of God. They decided to say what the king wants to hear. And there and then, the spirit of a deceitful spirit entered into them. Why did they change? Perhaps they have fear. Perhaps they're afraid that the king might be angry. Or they might like to please the king. Then maybe some reward. In the end, all 400 of them were filled with the spirit of deceit. So as prophets, we need to be careful. You were originally a vessel of the Lord, but then you chose to serve the king. But in the end, you're serving yourself because you don't want others to be angry. Or you want the king to be better towards you. In the end, you are for yourself. And all 400 of them were filled by the spirit of deceit. And when Micaiah said the truth, then the leader of the prophetic team struck him, hit him. And so the head of this prophetic team said to him, "Which way did the Spirit of the Lord go when he went from me to speak to you?" Then Micaiah said that you'll find out on the day you go hide in an inner room, then why would in the end why would the king die? When this war, when they were defeated in this war, then how come these 400 prophets said yes, said it was okay? Then Jezebel will deal with them. You said you were okay, but in the end, when this failed, then they have to Jezebel want to arrest the prophets, and the prophets will have to hide in the inner room. And Micaiah said, "There and then you will know." There are some things that you don't need to argue. So this caused Ahab to feel unsettled. We'll first throw him in prison, and I'll deal with him when I return. Saying that if I return alive, then I can deal with this. This is Ahab's character. Does he believe or does he not believe? Ahab, he goes on the battlefield, but he have to go in disguise. Then I better go in disguise. At least address as a king that I might die. This should be safer. So it seems like he cares a bit about this prophecy too. But he is like this. He's so back and forth. When you are like that, nobody can save you. You appease you were listening, but you are not listening. But when you don't listen, well, you say that you're not listening, but it appears you are some sort of listening. Simply put, we don't know which side you're on. You're jumping back and forth. And in your whole life, you've been jumping back and forth. In the matter of following God, you've been back and forth. Even God can't save you. So this thing happened. During the battle, someone shot an arrow. First of all, someone drew his bow at random and hit the king of Israel between the sections of his armor. Drawing his bow at random. So he wasn't really aiming for anything, it's just fire an arrow. It's just the enemy is before you, then it doesn't matter, just draw the bow and shoot the arrow. And it just so happened that the king was wearing his armor. But between the sections of his armor, there are gaps so that people can move around in the armor. And this arrow just hit him right in between the sections of the armor. So it means that as long as you go on the battlefield, then God has a way for you to die. Then he died. And God's prophecy towards him was fulfilled. So when we come to this point, God has already felt that there was no way. That's when someone has not made up his mind to follow the Lord, that in the end the Lord gave up on them. And God knew that he would not follow God. Micaiah was his last chance. And if it didn't work. So today as I'm reading this scripture, I noticed that there are some things that God cannot do. Of course, God is almighty. But this God, our God, gave us free will. So when people are refusing to follow God, and God can't do anything about it. Then God is like, all right, that's enough. His time on earth is up, and then that's goodbye. And this is the life of King Ahab. And here and there, there's a recording of King Jehoshaphat. I think when we look at the life of Jehoshaphat, we can discuss it more clearly. But I'll just talk about the last verse. It talks about the Ahaziah, king of Ahab, become king of Israel. Verse 53, he served and worshipped Baal and aroused the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, just as his father had done. So you see that the father had 400 prophets of the Lord. But what it appears to him is that it appears that the prophets of the Lord has caused his father to die. It appears that the prophets of the Lord are of no use. So they go back to the prophets of Baal. His son is just like him. They're back and forth. So during the time of Ahaziah, it means that the whole household of Ahab was destroyed. We must ask God to help us. We must embrace the truth. We need to listen to truthful words. We must speak truthful words. And of course, at the right circumstances. And truthful words are not angry words. You need to be at the right place at the right time. We must have to be real. And we have to embrace the truth. We need to embrace those who speak truthful words to us, so that our days may be long and prosper. Or else God can't save us. May God save us.